It's showtime.
The dust of WWDC has settled. Apple gave us colourful icons, a somehow impressive calculator, and Apple Intelligence. And as expected, zero hardware. But let's put on our detective hats.
Is it a cat? Why's it got two fronts?
It's a deer stalker.
It's an ear hat, John.
And see what that means for Apple's upcoming product line. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. First up, don't expect too much excitement in terms of Apple announcing things between now and the iPhone 16 event, though of course, once the adventurous masses running the beta software in US English get their hands on the first taste of Apple Intelligence, I'm sure there will be plenty to talk about, so make sure you drop me a sub if you haven't already. It seems like the biggest outrage after the Apple event was that AI is limited to the A17 Pro and M1 or higher chips, which means even Apple's current iPhone 15 non-Pro is left out of the fun, and is limited to the iPhone, Mac and iPad, so no Apple Watch, no HomePods, no Apple TV, etc. And maybe most surprisingly, even the M2 equipped Vision Pro, unless I missed something huge? I don't think I did. So what's with these draconian restrictions? Well, Apple's head of AI and machine learning, John Giannandrea, hopefully, clarified to Daring Fireball's John Gruber that it's a combination of bandwidth in the device and the size of the neural engine, and older devices would be so slow that it wouldn't be useful, expanding that if it was a way to sell newer iPhones, they would also have restricted it to only the latest iPads and Mac chips too, which I guess is fair enough. But what is this going to show us about what's coming? Well, I don't think we'll see much being released that can't support Apple Intelligence in some way going forward. Let's start with the iPhone. We've already heard rumours that both iPhone models in 2024, Pro and regular in both sizes, will get the action button that debuted with the iPhone 15 Pro last year, and both sizes will get what is slated to be called the capture button, which may also have capacitive functions where you can slide your finger across it as a control, and multiple pressure levels like a camera shutter button. Is it possible that also has some sort of AI functionality? Possibly. Now, we've also heard that the base iPhones won't be getting last year's Pro chip this time, but a brand new chip, partially because the A17 Pro was built on the first generation 3nm process, or N3 at TSMC, which has been problematic in terms of yield, with TSMC themselves having to pay for the ones that didn't work, just like my light that keeps flickering. Sorry about that. We've also already seen the iPad move from M3 to M4 to avoid this process, move into the N3E, which is apparently much easier to produce, but not compatible with designs from the previous processors, so new A18 chip most likely for the base iPhone, which will be able to support Apple Intelligence. Great stuff. The iPhone 16 Pro will of course get a slightly beefier version, which could be called the A18 Pro, or, and here's one of my more outlandish ideas, reset the numbering with some new branding in the chip department. The AI1 or the M4 Lite? I'm not sure, but if Apple wanted to reset the numbers, it feels like a decent time to do it. People have been asking for an M chip in an iPhone for a while, for no good reason, and who knows, onto the iPads, and the ones that have already had their update for this year, of course, will all get the Apple Intelligence goodness, with the M2 powered Air and the anorexic iPad Pro sporting the M4 chip. All good here, but the best iPad, the iPad mini, is the furthest out from its last update. In fact, it's been over 1,000 days. Last updated in September of 2021. So in September, to celebrate 3 years of jelly scrolling, iPad mini will almost certainly be getting the same chip as one of the iPhones, so an A18 or whatever they call the Pro version. Probably A18 Pro, let's be honest. What I really don't expect, despite everyone hoping, is an iPad mini Pro with an 120Hz display and an M chip inside, although the M4 is probably power efficient enough at this point that the battery in that current device could handle it. I just don't think they will. Although getting the Pro iPhone chip is a decent possibility. Fingers crossed it would also get the relocated FaceTime camera too, which would also mean switching to the Apple Pencil Pro and likely getting the same storage bump as the iPad Air, up from 64GB to 128. And if the iPad mini does get the iPhone Pro chip, then the 11th gen base iPad could also get the base iPhone chip too, plus Apple Pencil Pro compatibility, and I'd forgive them leaving it with 64GB of storage to keep that price in the mid 300s. But that would give Apple's full iPad lineup access to Apple Intelligence from day one, and those base iPads would fly off the shelves. On to Apple Watch 10, and Apple Watch itself has had a history of simply crossing out a number on the chip and writing a new one on with a Sharpie and calling that job done. But with the rumoured new flatter design, larger displays at 45 and 49mm respectively, I could see Apple going all out and offering some of the Apple Intelligence features on a new chip in an Apple Watch 2. Though I'd not be surprised if most is handed off to either your paired iPhone, or for those who have a non-paired watch, which is only possible with a cellular model, perhaps handing more of those requests off to Apple's own servers in the cloud. It's only going to be basic functions, of course. You're unlikely to be generating many big old images on your watch as you would with Image Playground on your Mac or your phone. So while, of course, the Apple Watch does have a very small battery, if its cores in this new chip are based on those in the M4, which would make a lot of sense if they're also used in the iPhone, power efficiency would be, just like on that hypothetical iPad Mini Pro, pretty amazing. Neural engines could probably be used for better on-device understanding than small text requests being sent off to Apple servers for the processing. Now, that seems like a decent way to bring many of the features to the watch, if only on the latest models. HomePod and Apple TV. Now, assuming no hardware updates this year, which I think is likely the event, these things are, of course, connected to your home network. And if you're at home and potentially wanting to use them, you're probably there with either your iPhone or your Mac or your iPad on that same network. So I just can't help thinking, as your Mac can now reach out to your iPhone to use it on your behalf using iPhone mirroring, why couldn't your less powerful home devices reach out to your Apple Intelligence-enabled devices to get their answers locally without your data or request ever reaching the internet at large? Is it possible that this has something to do with the Thread radios that Apple's been including in many of its recent devices without them being enabled so far? Perhaps. Now, I'm super excited about Apple Intelligence. While there are very few individual features that we've not seen on another device before, I think Apple's integration across the system with its own apps and developers adding app intents, combined with so much of the processing being on-device, is unmatched. Many of these other AI options out there on the market are paid services, especially if you want the good stuff, but as Apple isn't sending every request off to an NVIDIA-powered server farm to process and do God knows what else with your data, they don't need to charge you. And that feels pretty magical. I think this also puts the death knell on things like the Rabbit and the Humane, even though they tried to end themselves already. Now, for WWDC, it turns out I pretty much nailed the WWDC bingo card, and even my Mac release roadmap from that episode was basically confirmed by Mark Gurman today, although he did confirm it by retweeting a tweet that he'd put out in May that I just hadn't read. So I'll take it as a win, but a small one. And why no details on which Macs will get Apple Intelligence? Because they all will. Everything released since the M1, and if you're still rocking an Intel Mac and you're mad about that, you have at least a 5-year-old chip, and no one was talking about AI then, so what did you expect? Catch up. Thanks to the Patreons for your support, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. With my flashy light.
Beth is fired up.